The first red flag wasn't the calendar invite titled HR Discussion. 4:45 p.m. Tuesday. It was the way no one made eye contact when I stepped into the corner office overlooking downtown Minneapolis. 3 people waited: Denise from HR, a nervous legal associate barely out of law school, and the CFO, Mark Benson, tapping a pen like he was timing a eulogy. No greeting, no small talk, just a manila envelope on the table like a death notice. Avery, we appreciate your time here. Denise began using the same tone someone might use at a hospice bedside, but due to ongoing budget alignment and broader year-end restructuring, Mark cut in smoothly, fingers laced like he was pitching an insurance scam. Your role has been classified as non-essential. Non-essential. I didn't need clarification. It felt like my chest collapsed inward. No write-up, no warning, not even a lousy farewell card. Just non-essential. Like I was some dusty Rolodex taking up space in a cloud-based world. I picked up the envelope, nodded once, and walked out. I didn't cry. Not in the elevator, not when the security guard nodded but avoided eye contact. Not even when my badge flashed red at the lobby turnstile. But I stopped outside the break room. Not for the burnt coffee or the stale pretzels I always hated, but because I heard them laughing. Mark's voice loud and smug. Saved $210K in 10 minutes. Boom! Clean sweep. Pause. She'll probably open a soap shop or whatever. Candle blog, something artsy. Laughter followed wet, open mouth, head thrown back laughter. I stood there 5 seconds too long. Long enough to imagine jamming that envelope down his throat and stapling it shut. But I didn't. I walked out. Tight-lipped. Humiliated. 22 years. I joined that company when flip phones were high-tech, when we still faxed contracts and brought donuts for birthdays. I stuck through 2 recessions, 4 office relocations, and 3 acquisitions. I ran point on every renewal since 2009. I even kept baby photos from our clients' holiday cards. But to them, legacy fat. And if you've read this far, go ahead and subscribe. The good part's still coming. Apparently, 97% of you listen to these stories without tapping that little subscribe button. And honestly, that's like grinning at your bartender all night and leaving no tip. Just one click, it's what keeps the lights on, and the quiet revenge coming. Anyway, back in my Subaru parked behind the coffee shop off Hennepin Avenue, I finally opened the envelope. Severance standard. NDA expected. Then my eyes caught a clause about returning all proprietary client data. Tucked near the back was something stapled. Title Exhibit A. I squinted. It was mine. My Excel template, the one I built 12 years ago to track client relationship metrics. Anniversary dates, executive birthdays, notes on pain points, preferred lunch spots. One client's son had a peanut allergy. I'd marked it with a tiny emoji in the comments. It was all there. Printed. Unredacted. No edits. Just the living anatomy of our top 40 clients mapped out in ink like a sacrificial lamb ready for slaughter. I flipped to the last page. Curated and maintained by Avery Quinn. My name. In 11-point calibri. The same font I used when I still led strategy, not just team lunches. I leaned back in my seat, closed my eyes, and for the first time since walking out, I smiled. Not because I had a plan yet, but because the universe had just handed me a loaded weapon wrapped in corporate HR language. And the CFO, he was still laughing in the break room. Later that night, I sat in my living room recliner, the one that still smelled vaguely like my ex-husband's gym regrets. The contents of the envelope lay across my lap like the aftermath of a deer on I-94. 2 months' pay if I agreed to an NDA tighter than a Sunday dress shirt at Aunt Lorraine's second wedding. They'd even included LinkedIn talking points telling me how to post a grateful goodbye. Like closure came in bullet points. I shoved it all aside, hand settling on Exhibit A, clinical, cold, like murder evidence. Each page a time capsule. Each line my fingerprint. And I still had the original. Old school handwritten thank you cards filed under Q3 outreach. Gluten-free, but not one of those people. Don't joke about it. Every entry had my initials. Some of these notes dated back to 2011. I remembered scribbling one on a napkin at a Chili's after a last-minute dinner with the Ryan Tech execs. They'd toasted my promotion over a 2-for-1 margarita special and told me I was the only reason they hadn't jumped ship. Now here it was, every client tick allergy milestone preference sitting in a termination packet. No redactions, no filters. HR hadn't even deleted the comment section. One line read, "Client's wife has cancer. Do not pitch this quarter emotional territory." Another note, prefers texting, hates calls. Except from Avery. That one made me pause. Not except from our firm, not except from client success, except from Avery. I blinked hard. What they gave me wasn't just careless. It was dangerous. This wasn't a client list. This was relationship DNA layered with grief, trust, and coffee-stained history. And they didn't even know what they'd handed over. 15 years of quiet loyalty, red-eye flights, anniversary, reminders, inside jokes, logged in lowercase shorthand. Every client on that list. They didn't trust the logo. They trusted me. And now, legally accidentally, I owned it. Because someone in HR probably dragged and dropped the wrong folder. And the CFO too busy high-fiving himself in the break room over saving $210K to notice he'd just gift-wrapped the golden goose. I didn't scream. Didn't rage. Didn't even pour a whiskey. I just sat. Real still. Let the betrayal settle like cold meat in a dead freezer. The company that once called me their client whisperer had fired me like I was curdled milk. And in doing so, they handed me a Molotov cocktail of negligence and memory. My phone buzzed. LinkedIn. Mark Benson just posted, "Tough decisions are never easy but necessary. Grateful for those who helped us grow." The comments all endanger leadership. I clicked on his profile. Smug grin. Buzzword soup. I looked back at my lap. 47 names. 47 relationships. All mine now. 47 chances to watch Mark Benson choke on the very spreadsheet he proudly signed off on. I didn't know when I'd move, but the match was lit. And the fire patient. The bar wasn't glamorous, just a dim, dusty place between a boarded-up JCPenney and a vape shop that reeked of sour candy and teenage regret. I sat at a sticky two-top under a flickering neon Pabst sign, nursing a double bourbon. I hadn't been there in years, but the bartender still knew my drink. "Been a while, Quinn," he said, sliding the glass over without asking. He gave me that look. The kind reserved for regulars who've clearly just lost something big. Shoulders heavy, lipstick intact, soul frayed. Across from me sat Liz Delaney, former client, part-time friend, full-time, let's grab drinks sometime contact. Now, with VersaLink, one of those sleeker, faster, better-funded competitors I used to quietly hate. "So they really cut you loose?" she asked, swirling her martini like she could stir sense into it. "Like expired tuna," I muttered, taking another sip. Called me legacy bloat. 18 years and they treated me like a glitch in payroll. Liz snorted. "You were half their client strategy. Guess charm got replaced by spreadsheets." Should have majored in pivot tables and selective empathy, she deadpanned. We sat in that kind of silence that only old colleagues can pull off where pain is implied, but unspoken. Then Liz leaned in. "I mean this jump ship. We've wanted you for years. You've got relationships money can't fake, and I guarantee your clients already feel the hole you left." "I'm radioactive," I said, fresh off a pink slip still warm from the printer. "Think your execs want that?" Liz grinned. "Not sweet. Predatory. Our CEO loves radioactive, especially if it burns a hole in the competition's wallet." I didn't say yes, but I didn't say no. She tore off a bar napkin, scribbled an address, and pushed it toward me. "Tonight," she said. I went home, buzzed, bitter, and emotionally duct-taped together. But that little square of napkin, it felt suspiciously like possibility. For the first time since the dismissal, I felt something flicker in my chest. Not joy, not even hope, possibility. I sat at my kitchen table, still surrounded by condolence flowers from co-workers, too spineless to say anything real. I opened a blank document. Didn't even have to look for my resume. It was already pristine, kept fresh like a go bag under the bed of someone who's been burned before. 36 hours later, I sat across from a panel at VersaLink's uptown Minneapolis office. The air smelled like new paint and freshly printed ambition. No HR scripts, no jargon. Just real people asking real questions and actually listening when I answered. 48 hours after that, my phone rang. "We'd love to bring you on board," the CEO said. His voice was black coffee and a handshake that stuck. "Lead account strategist. Full autonomy. We care less about titles and more about trust." Sound good? I looked out the window. Across the street, a construction crew jackhammered concrete like it owed them money. I smiled. If you're still here, you're part of the story. Now hit subscribe so you don't miss what happens when Avery finally opens that next envelope. "Yeah," I said. "Sounds real good." I hung up and sat there a while, letting it land. Then I opened the drawer beside me and pulled out the creased pages of Exhibit A. I didn't need revenge. Not yet. I had value. And someone finally saw it. But still my fingers traced the corner of that spreadsheet like a rosary. Value was nice. But leverage. Leverage was holy. VersaLink smelled like lemon oil and fresh contracts. No dusty cube farms, no flickering fluorescents or decade-old Keurigs. Just intention in every corner. People smiled here. Not the fake corporate kind that says, "Please don't CC me," but real ones. The kind you forget exist when you've been trapped in a place where birthdays mean a Slack emoji and a stale Costco cupcake. My new desk was walnut. The chair didn't squeak like it needed therapy. The drawer shut smooth as bourbon. That's where I kept Exhibit A, folded in thirds like a love letter to a past that no longer deserved me. I didn't flash it. Didn't need to. VersaLink played a different game. Just him. A mug that read, "Don't mess with my margins." And one question. "So," Cal said, leaning back in his chair, "what kinds of relationships are you bringing with you?" I smiled, slow-closed mouth. "A few strong ones. Might take time." He nodded. "Good. We don't need fireworks. Just friction." Then he winked like he'd just handed me an alibi. Back at my desk, I started small. I wasn't here to blow anything up. Not yet. I needed to see where the charges would actually stick. So I watched. I listened. I took notes. VersaLink's CRM was sleek, efficient, completely sterile. No nuance, no texture, no history, no margin scribbles, no surprise birthday reminders. Just drop-downs and timelines and fields labeled engagement tier. So I started enhancing, not rewriting, just refining. A note here, a quirk there. Who preferred Zooms at 7 a.m. Pacific because their kid played late-night hockey? Who ignored emails unless the subject line had an inside joke? One bridge at a time, I rebuilt what the old place never understood. In between onboarding calls and strategy sessions, I'd quietly pull out Exhibit A, not for revenge, for research. Column by column, I cross-referenced birthdays with contract anniversaries. I noticed Q3 was bloated with auto-renewals. I designed it that way years ago to match most clients' fiscal year resets. One client had a product launch plan for mid-September. I used to guide that testing phase. Without me, they'd be flailing. Another expected a personalized quarterly brief I'd always done by hand. I doubted anyone over there remembered. Pressure points, friction points. I started logging them not digitally. Too risky. Instead, I bought a beat-up notebook from a Speedway gas station and wrote garden tools in Sharpie across the front. Nobody asked. Nobody cared. But inside, page by page, I plotted like a general mapping troop positions. By week 3, I knew who was irritated, who was vulnerable, and who was one bad Zoom call from bolting. I didn't say a word to anyone. One morning, Cal passed me in the hall and said casually, "Let me know if anyone's worth a call." Just that. Nothing pushy. I just nodded. But that night, with decaf in one hand and a highlighter in the other, I marked another name on the list. My hand didn't shake anymore. Because this wasn't revenge. Not yet. This was restoration. And the groundwork was nearly set. It started with a subject line so casual it could have worn Crocs. Just checking in. The recipient, Paige Dunleavy, VP of Procurement at Kinley & Brooks, one of my longest-standing clients. We'd weathered 3 budget shakeups, 1 internal fraud scandal, and her messy divorce over steak salads and overpriced Chardonnay during a thunderstorm in 2016. I didn't attach a pitch deck, no VersaLink logo, no fancy signature shouting my new title. Just, hey Paige, hope you're holding up in the madness. Just wanted to say hi and let you know I've landed somewhere new. Felt weird not staying in touch after all these years. No agenda, I swear. Just miss our catch-ups and wanted to see how you're doing. Take care, Avery. I hit send and forgot about it. Or pretended to. 3 hours later, my inbox pinged. Subject, just checking in. Marcy, holy hell, you're alive. I figured you were in witness protection. The vibe here has been weird. No update, no context. Just poof, gone. Now we're stuck in a support portal run by some intern who thinks client escalation is a Mortal Kombat move. Where are you? Can I call P? I stared at the screen for a long moment. Then I smiled, not a smug grin. Something gentler, warmer. I typed back, of course. Call anytime. I'm with VersaLink now. She called 30 seconds later. Okay, she said half whisper, half sigh. I'm just gonna say it. It's been awful since you left. I let her talk. They gave us this guy, Connor. He spells logistics with a Z. Says it's a branding decision. I laughed. That sounds innovative? Oh, screw you. You know you were the only reason we renewed last year. You caught that invoice issue before I even saw it. And you sent flowers when my dad died. Your name is still in our Slack vendor channel, Paige said. For God's sake. You never removed me, I asked, raising an eyebrow. Hell no. I was hoping you'd come back. Not someone like me? Just me. I didn't speak for a beat. Just sat with that. Then Paige filled the silence. Look, I don't want to jump the gun, and maybe this is premature, but if you're allowed to talk about VersaLink, I'd love to hear what you've got going on over there. Especially if it means I never have to hear Connor pronounce logistics like it's an edgy startup. My heart thudded. Slow, steady, like a war drum warming up. I'd love that, I said. Let me get a few things together. We can talk next week, maybe sooner. Your annual review's coming up right next Thursday. And I've got zero faith in the team here. After we hung up, I didn't rush to Slack or ping Cal with the news. I just sat, still, quiet, and let the validation soak in like a deep breath I didn't know I'd been holding. It wasn't just that they noticed I was gone. It was that they felt it. My name didn't belong to the old company anymore. It belonged to me. And now it was starting to move. The war room wasn't really a war room, just a side conference room off the East Wing at VersaLink. Whiteboards, takeout cartons, a Bluetooth speaker that only worked if you begged it. I stood at the head of the table. Exhibit A, divided into 3 quadrants, renewal timeline, revenue risk, emotional leverage. Ellie from Creative was on my left, red pen, dancing across mock-ups with criminal intent. Raj from Sales on my right, nodding like his mortgage depended on every word. It might. Across from me, Cal Weston tapped his pen in perfect sync with my pulse. You sure this isn't overkill? He asked. Overkill is an email blast, I replied, eyes on the dossier. This is surgical. And it was. Every folder hand-built to aim precisely where the cracks had already started to show. Each packet included a handwritten note. Same message. Every time we understand you've lost your point of contact, we'd be honored to be considered. Simple. Honest. A scalpel where my old company would have used a sledgehammer. Raj let out a low whistle. Damn, these are beautiful. You want me to start follow-ups next week? I shook my head. No follow-ups. Not yet. Let them breathe. Let them feel the absence. Cal smirked from across the table. You really do know where the nerves are, don't you? I spent 15 years memorizing their pressure points, I said. I'm just giving them a gentle nudge. One by one, the packets were sealed into matte navy envelopes. No logos, no VersaLink watermark. Just smooth cardstock and hand-addressed names, each one sharp, clean, unmistakably personal. They looked less like sales kits, more like invitations. Invitations to leave mediocrity behind. Invitations to remember what real partnership felt like. invitations to come home to the one who actually gave a damn. The final envelope in the stack Hartwell Dynamics. The big fish. The client my old CFO once called a non-negotiable pillar. I licked the flap and sealed it with a smile, like sending a wedding invitation to my ex's new girlfriend. When the courier arrived, I gave one instruction. Deliver them all on the same day. By hand. Executive floor only. No exceptions. He nodded like I'd handed him nuclear codes. Then silence. No Slack pings. No urgent emails. No drama. Just the stillness that follows, setting the timer on a very polite bomb. 27 hours later, my inbox pinged. Subject Hartwell Dynamics. RE opportunity to reconnect Avery. You have no idea how good it is to see your name again. Let's talk. Soon. I let the email sit. Sipped my coffee. Watched the warm anticipation crawl up my spine like a rising tide through an open window. They lit the match when they fired me. I just handed them the gasoline. The first whisper came from a former intern now working at a boutique firm in Chicago. LinkedIn DM? 9:03 a.m. Hey, Avery. Law. Not sure what you did, but I just saw 2 execs from your old company absolutely melting down in a Starbucks line. Something about client attrition panic. You okay? Also, respect. I didn't respond. Just smiled faintly and muted the notification. The second one came 2 hours later. Not on VersaLink's Slack, on the old company's. In their rush to deactivate my accounts and toss me into the exit bin, they'd forgotten one external vendor channel where clients occasionally tagged me in threads. It had been quiet for weeks, until a message popped up from someone named Connor Can. Someone send me the previous contact logs for Kinley and Brooks. Their procurement lead just canceled Q4 planning. Said they're reassessing vendors. Reassessing. That word hung in my chest like a slow echo. 10 minutes later, another ping. Just got off the phone with Hartwell Dynamics. They're pulling their development budget, postponing renewal, said their needs have evolved. Does anyone know what that means? Oh, I knew. Your needs have evolved. We're here to meet you where you are. It was literally slide 3 in the Hartwell packet. This wasn't a landslide yet, but the tremors were real. By noon, I got a text from Liz. You seeing this Midwest Innovation Summit canceled. They pulled out. 150K exposure, gone. Word is the CFO skipped the lunch and locked himself in his glass box all morning. I didn't reply. I just opened my notebook, the one labeled Garden Tools. Turned to the tab marked Phase 2 Erosion. 3 names underlined Kinley and Brooks. Hartwell Dynamics, Revlon Track. All marked cracked. No champagne, no celebration. I straightened a few papers, took a quiet walk to the corner cafe, watched 2 pigeons wrestle over half a bagel. And I felt it, that strange humming calm, like standing on the shore watching the ocean recede before something massive. My phone buzzed again. Sam Jr. PM. CEO just called emergency all hands. Tomorrow. Topic client retention. Everyone's freaking out. It's like the ghost of you is haunting the place. You're a legend. Ghost of me. That hit different. Because ghosts don't rage. They linger. Ghosts don't scream. Ghosts linger. And I'd made sure to linger in all the right places. That evening, VersaLink's sales team gathered for the weekly Thursday check-in. Everyone went around the table reviewing pipeline progress. When it was my turn, I kept it simple. 3 contacts reestablished. 2 proposals in consideration. 1 signed. Cal raised an eyebrow. Grinned. Like a man who knew exactly how much damage one woman with clean stationery and a long memory could do. Quiet week, huh? He said. I leaned back in my chair, crossed my legs, smiled. Just planting seeds, I replied. Spring's coming early this year. The call came at 6:17 p.m., that odd hour between the end of the workday and the first sip of something strong. My phone buzzed once, then twice. A Cleveland area code. I didn't answer. Just watched it ring like a surgeon watches for a heartbeat to flatline. On the second attempt, I picked up. Hello? A pause. A breath. Then Avery. No introduction. but the voice carried that distinct blend of CEO panic and brittle politeness wrapped around raw desperation. "Well," I said flatly, "that was fast. I just got off the phone with 2 board members," he snapped. "Do you have any idea what kind of damage? What the hell do you think you're doing?" There it was, the crack, the sound of someone used to being in control, discovering the wheels no longer in their hands. I sipped my tea. Earl Grey. No sugar, just heat. "I'm doing very well, actually. Thanks for asking. You've been contacting our clients." "No, I've been corresponding with people I've worked with for over a decade. If you were accidentally given a client list in your severance packet..." I let the sentence drift like steam from a kettle. "You labeled it Exhibit A. That list is proprietary." "I swear to God, Avery, I didn't raise my voice. I didn't need to. Real control doesn't shout. It waits while the other side chokes on their own mistake." "You should check your mail," I said calmly. "Courier delivery. Navy envelopes. Handwritten." He stuttered. "You orchestrated this." "Not quite, but close enough." Finally, he spoke again, his voice brittle. "You're sabotaging us." "I'm not sabotaging anything," I said, calm as glass. "I'm just available." Turns out when people miss being treated like actual human beings, they tend to return to the one person who always did. On the other end, I heard it, that labored breath. The kind you hear when someone realizes the floor is giving way and there's no memo that can stop it. "You know how hard we've worked to retain those clients." "You mean the ones you said were locked in?" I asked. "The ones you handed off to Connor and his fortnight vocabulary?" I leaned back, propped my feet on the ottoman. "Yeah, real ironclad. You think this is funny?" "No," I said. "I think it's poetic." Silence again, the kind that stretches like scar tissue. Finally, he asked how many I didn't answer. Just smiled into the receiver. "That's the thing about trust," I said. "You never really know it's gone until it's too late." Then, with a calmness that felt almost sacred, I ended the call. No shouting, no dramatic send-off, just click. I set the phone down gently. On my laptop, an email pinged in subject excited to move forward. Signed and returned. I closed my eyes. Let it land. This wasn't just payback. This was performance art. Meanwhile, back at my former company, the boardroom reeked of panic and citrus-scented denial. 10 executives, 1 polished oak table, 0 explanations. A stack of Navy envelopes sat in the middle like a pile of overdue confessions. No logos, handwritten names in clean, deliberate ink. Interns hadn't even known where to send them. Half the C-suite thought they were invites to some bespoke retreat. They opened the first at 9:01 a.m. By 9:08, the room was dead quiet. Each letter custom-tailored. No spam, no fluff. They named renewal dates, unresolved service issues, even a missed invoice correction verbatim from my old notes. "That's confidential," someone stammered. Legal flipped through my termination packet. The junior attorney shook her head. "Nope," she said. "You gave it to her." The junior attorney looked pale, already rethinking her career choices. "She was given Exhibit A," she said quietly. It was part of her termination packet. "But it's proprietary," someone insisted. "She didn't steal it," the lawyer replied, flipping pages. "We gave it to her, and she didn't directly solicit anyone. VersaLink sent the materials. She hasn't violated anything." Silence. Then someone lost it. "You're telling me we handed our most sensitive client intel to the one person who actually knew how to use it and then fired her, and now she's using it against us from the outside. And we're just helpless." "Technically legal," said yes. A junior VP tried to speak. Instead, he choked on his own breath. Someone knocked over a coffee cup. Another exec, red-faced, tie askew, stood and barked, "Who the hell approved sending that document in her severance?" All eyes turned to the CFO, the same guy who once bragged in the break room about saving 210 KALs in dead weight. He said nothing. He couldn't. Because just then, the chairman of the board, gray hair himself, 3 heart attacks, deep and still sharp as a scalpel, leaned forward. "Do you still think firing Avery Quinn was a good idea?" he asked. No one answered. Back at VersaLink, I sat in my glass-walled office legs, crossed sipping a latte from my favorite mug. The one that read, Legacy, this. Outside, the fall sun hit the windows just right. Across from me, a neat stack of signed contracts waited to be processed. All of them recent. All of them poached. My inbox pinged. Subject, RE moving forward. Avery, our team's ready. Signed and returned. Feels like we're finally back on track. I didn't smile. Not fully. I just closed the email, took another sip, and leaned back in my chair. The desk drawer across the room sat slightly open. Inside, folded like a memory, was Exhibit A. I never needed to touch it again. The war was over, and I'd won it without ever raising my voice. If you've ever been underestimated, overlooked, or told you were non-essential, I hope my story hit home. I didn't burn bridges, I documented them. Quietly, strategically. And when the time came, I walked across every single one with my head held high. If you've ever faced that kind of silence, leave a comment below. I'd love to hear your story. And if this reminded you of your own worth, remember this, the ones who built the foundation always know where the weight cracks. Hit that like, subscribe, and share, not for me. For every dead weight who carried more than they were paid to.